everything is okay, good. Thank you. If Facebook is fine, woohoo! Yes, gone again. Not so sure why. Alfred, real, gone again. What do you mean? Oh Lord. Yep. Let me just do something here. Let me just do something here, guys. Just bear with me. Want to make sure you all get me so you can participate. That's the key. There we go. Yeah, so give me a thumbs up if we are okay. I know Facebook was having some problems yesterday, so if everybody is good, just give me a thumbs up. I don't know. If you're good on Facebook, just give me a thumbs up. I don't want to lose anybody today. So, yeah. Yep. Let me know how you guys are on Facebook. YouTube, is everything okay now? On YouTube, just send me a WhatsApp if you're good on YouTube. Once you have gotten sound back. Yep. I think you're coming back. Is everything okay? Not so sure what's going on. Yeah. Okay, good. Looks like we're back up. Okay. So, you know what? Facebook did have a thing that we were experiencing some problems yesterday. I kind of mentioned it quite quickly, but that was after I got off, if my memory serves me well. So if we're back up. But yeah, these are some of the things, just picking right back up as to where we are. These are the private members' motions as well that is going to actually be that are on the order table to be debated on and considered in this sitting as well. So there's lots of things going on, and lots of these bills, should they be presented, well, not should, when they're presented on the floor of Parliament, the minister responsible for these bills will then be the one who is allowed to speak on them, and then they're going to open the floor for debate. It is at that time that usually the leader of the opposition, members of the opposition, members on the other side, everybody should, they're given the opportunity to speak on them and, debate the bill within. But their debates must remain within the confines of the bill that is on the table at the time. Now, remember, things to be remembered is that these bills, especially the bills and any business of the government, including motions, normally these do not make it this far to be tabled on an order paper unless it has the renowned support of the sitting administration, meaning your caucus and your cabinet. So when you see bills like these that will, whatever their amendments are, they will actually be approved and supported in caucus, and then it goes to cabinet, and then cabinet, after they do what they have to do, then that's when it goes to the floor of Parliament for debate. So I just want you to know that sometimes, based on public feedback, public pressure, even though they may be collective responsibility, sometimes if constituents' voices are very loud, they will actually change the trajectory, and some of these bills may not make or see the light of day. So I just need you to know that. But why it is good that you understand the importance of this is because legislation is the backbone of how we function as a society. And this is why you will hear us continuously hammer it home. Make sure your feedback is welcome. Please participate, because every law debated on the floor of Parliament becomes a part of the architecture that governs our daily lives. Even if you don't understand it, even if you may feel like this is not for me, I'm no legal minded, I don't know how to structure my questions or to even start a conversation, but I know what little I'm hearing. I'm not feeling too good about this. You shouldn't diminish that. That's fine. There's no wrong question being asked if you have a concern. Don't overthink things. Once you have a question or a concern, by all means, please reach out and ask them. Because exactly all of these bills, all of these motions are actually designing our future and our society. It also will have an impact on how we move through our roads. Hello, how our financial sector is even operating, and we know that that is one of the key pillars of our income, and how our land is registered even as well, and how immigration processes work. How much more Caymanians are we going to have in there, and how public services are actually delivered. So when our parliament debates these laws, these legislation, make proposal for amendment, has new ideas for new laws, it signals three major things. And I want you guys to realize this. And this is why it's important for you to follow these things or tune into Sabrina Speaks, where we try to break it down in layman's terms for you. But the three things that it signals is a shift in national priorities. And that is when our country is choosing to what they're choosing to focus on right now. So in this sitting, that's exactly what it does, okay? And also a response of emerging issues, whether global regulatory changes, technology advancements, or local challenges. That's the second thing that it signals. And the third thing that it signals is an effort to modernize our legislation, ensuring that our jurisdiction remains competitive, transparent, and also aligned with international best practices. Now, you may say that's not the case when it comes to the immigration reform, but remember, there are certain amendments right now that were waived where fees were being collected, but they weren't actually covered in statute, in law, and they're trying to correct that. Now, yeah, we kind of spoke about that yesterday as well. So these decisions don't sit on a shelf, really, even though sometimes you may feel that way. They actually ripple outward. And you're feeling it already just because the discussion has ensued, and you can preempt how it's going to impact your daily lives, how it's going to impact your borderline, how it's going to impact the additional expenditure it may have on your business. And also, that doesn't stop at businesses. It actually goes into your households and into the way, yes, our government interacts with people that they are elected to serve. So when it comes to the motions themselves, these motions, alongside the bills, Parliament will consider, as I said, 6 of these and 8 private members' motions. But at any time, feel free to call in, join in on the conversation, 345-936-8255. Ms. Ebanks, it's good to have you with us. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Jimbo is here. Oh, that's why we were losing connectivity. Jimbo is late to class. You pulling in that much data, Jim? It's good to have you. Miss Barbara, good evening to you. It is a pleasure to see you here with us as well. But yes, I just want you to know that this is important and you need to keep abreast of what's going on. Sometimes I know you may say, oh my gosh, why am I even care to hear how they're debating? Really? You need to get an idea of how hard it is to get some of these pieces of legislation through. And then I got the concern about, what does it matter? The government has the numbers anyhow. I am so over it. I'm so over it. And I'm like, no, you have a say. So I just want you all to know how important this is. For some of you, you may say it's boring, it's repetitive. Let's hear what's going on, what's coming up for Easter. It's almost like you're putting a blind eye to it. With the way politics is going right now, bills like this, remaining competitive, being able to be even look at other jurisdictions that are not at all insulated from what's going on in the world. What are our options? What are our plan Bs? Yes, we are a British overseas territory jurisdiction, but at the end of the day, we have our own legislator to run as well, even though it's being overseen by the governor. Everyday life is real. And I'm hearing the conversations about, again, cost of living, the fare of the fees, and all of that sort of stuff. That is why you need to tune in. That is why you need to tune in. Listen to these private members' motions, understand how these bills are going to be debated, because remember, a lot of these bills that I actually said here, how many of you attended any public consultations on any of these bills? How many of you? How many of you even picked it up or even realized that they were actually up for grabs? Save by the very hot topic ones of the Litter Act, the Immigration Amendment. We covered the health insurance one. But outside of that, did you know of all of these? And this is why it is good that we have a space like this, do our best in order to try and keep up with it. Because when these government motions and bills actually come to fruition, they reveal, in this case with these government motions, they often reveal where this administration wants to take our country next. And government motions like this can authorize actions, it can also endorse policy direction, and it can set the stage for even future legislation. So these motions are usually also, and this is something to look for, are tied to national strategy, the economic development of our jurisdiction, and regulatory alignment, including that of the public service, improving them as well, and or responses even to regional and global pressures. So if you think these government motions don't have weight, you got a next guess coming. Because when our government motions come forward in a cluster like what we're seeing being placed on the order paper, it signals that the current sitting administration is actively shaping the policy landscape. Do you want to be left behind? And what it does, it tells us that these are the areas that the sitting administration believes require immediate attention or even long-term planning. So for all of you out there, this is where you can begin to see, if you've really been watching, you can really begin to see the government's priorities in real time based on these motions, right? And what they're choosing to elevate, what they're also choosing to address, and how they're choosing to respond to the needs and pressures facing our country, and definitely with you, okay? So don't you just overlook these and think that they don't actually matter and that they won't impact you. And breaking down these private members' motion, these are equally important. And there are many ways that they are the heartbeat of parliamentary democracy as well. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Because these motions come from members of parliament who are not a part of the cabinet. And what they often represent are and reflect are the concerns and the frustrations and the aspirations of everyday Caymanians. Okay? So these private members' motions, they don't mean that they're valued any less. Please don't mistake that. Because these private members' motion can highlight issues like community safety, cost of living, environmental protections. I'm just going off the top, even youth development, social service gaps, and infrastructure needs, and district, challenges that each of these members are getting feedback from district or constituency related challenges. And when a member of parliament that's not sitting in cabinet because they're either in the opposition or not a cabinet minister or not a part of the government, when an MP brings a private member's motion, they are essentially saying, okay, my constituents need these issues addressed, or it has been brought to my attention X, Y, and Z, and I'm putting it on the national stage. Now, even when these motions are not binding, what they actually do is spark debate. And then you actually get to know exactly how people are feeling. And what they do with these private members' motion is that they force clarity, and they also push our sitting government to respond. Yeah. And they create a public record that matters to people in the district. And that public records, when you say that they're going in the Hansards, that's there for life. So with these motions on the order paper, private members' motion and also government motion, that is a total of 14 motions on the order paper that's going to be dealt with in this sitting. It's not just about passing the laws. It's about shaping the national conversation as well, because it will give us some sort of insight as to what issues are rising in urgency and where members of parliament also sees gaps in policy. They may see gaps in how government and opposition differ in even their priorities as well, bearing in mind, even the opposition is a representative of the people and all of our people in the Cayman Islands. And what this actually do, it gives us insight into what communities across the islands are calling for. Now, sometimes it may not, that may actually throw me into this section of the question where the member for Georgetown Central stood up on a point of order. Yes, we had Minister Kenneth Bryan who stood up on a point of order, and he cited Section 48 of the standing orders. And I will put that up on here. And 48, it says motion on national policy issues. Why he called out on a point of order in regards to that is that there was a motion, I understand, that was passed on the floor of Parliament. And what the elected member is saying is that 2 meetings have passed. 2 meetings of the Parliament have passed. And this motion now has not been brought back. And he was highlighting to the speaker that he felt the main reason why this particular section was put in the standing orders is to make sure that things that were passed were not overlooked. So this section 48 of the rule, it simply says that when a private member's motion is passed in Parliament, because remember, the one that he's talking about is decriminalizing someone who got an offense of speeding in a wake zone. That is for boat operators. And it was put forward to the government by a private member to pass in Parliament that they decriminalize those boat operators who have been charged for speeding in a wake zone, to decriminalize it. And for some reason, it has not been brought back, which, based on Georgetown Central's member, the very premier and the running of the House were standing orders was in breach thereof. So in layman's terms, what this 48 is saying is that whenever a private member's motion is passed in Parliament and it deals with national policy issues, it is the responsibility of the clerk must send it to cabinet within a week. And what it also means is that, not saying that that did not happen, it means then that cabinet must then look into it and decide what and how they're going to best move forward. And then section 2 of this says in layman's term, at the next meeting of Parliament, the Premier or another government member chosen by the Premier must report back to the House of Parliament on Cabinet's decision. Okay? What that means is that Cabinet cannot ignore the motion that was passed. They must formally respond. Their decision must be tabled publicly in Parliament, and the public needs to get the opportunity and will be in a position to hear what Cabinet decided on, whether or not they will act on the motion or not. So really, in real life, what this means is that a private member's motion cannot be buried or forgotten. And the member for Georgetown Central stood up on a point of order after looking at the order paper, as we're seeing here with the bills, government motions, and you have the private members' motions, and I guess other business where they file their reports, parliamentary questions, statements, explanations, and all of that sort of stuff had already passed through in this sitting. Not to say that opportunity won't be given, but the Georgetown representative seized the moment to actually bring out and highlight a point of order because he'd heard no conversations around this very important motion and he needed an update. So at the end of the day, this is very important to democracy because what it does, it actually prevents government from quietly ignoring issues raised by the opposition or even independent members in this case, because it was a private member's motion to decriminalize that was passed on the floor of Parliament. And what it also does is that it forces transparency, because then Cabinet is put in a position that they must say yes, no, or not now, and give an explanation why, which, when it was pointed out on the floor of Parliament, the Honorable Premier got up and he responded. But in the first instance, how he responded, it could have been taken that it was being scuffed off, like being a little flippant. Oh, we'll get to it when we get to it, kinda. And I'm happy that he saved himself when he rose again to explain that, and I have to paraphrase here, that it's not that he's not saying it wouldn't be brought forward to the House, but they had some challenges trying to find out how it would be implemented or how it could work. I stand to be corrected. But getting back to why democracy matters in this particular incident is because, and in general, this process actually strengthens the role also of private members, giving them the real avenue to influence national policy that would have normally not made it to the floor of Parliament, because remember, the government of the day has the upper hand and they will carry out what they want. But because of democracy and this very same standing orders, and we have a private member's motion that was passed on the floor of Parliament, time has passed. According to the member from Georgetown Central, 2 meetings had been had and nothing. He just wanted to highlight that they were in breach of this very same standing order. And also what this does is that this is section 2. It actually ensures that the public themselves can track what happens after a motion passes. So the speaker has the responsibility. And I think you need to understand how important that role is as it pertains to the speaker when it comes to standing orders in itself being broken and something like this is highlighted. Because what these standing orders are, they are really the rules that govern how our Parliament conducts its business, right? How debates even unfold, how our members speak, how order is even maintained, and how discussions are made when rules are broken. And look, this was highlighted by the member from Georgetown Central. And then the speaker becomes the central figure responsible for one, if there's getting out of hand, restoring order, and protecting the integrity of the House. Now, when it's a breach of the speaker as the guardian of procedure, which was what was highlighted here, the speaker's first duty is to uphold this very same standing orders without fear or favor. You get me? Without fear, without favor. That is why the speaker's role cannot be compromised in any way, shape, or form. They have to remain neutral. They have to be unbiased. So when it comes to upholding standing orders, it is without fear or favor. And that means they must call out breaches immediately. And in directing members back to proper procedure, it is their opportunity, which he did today. And ensuring that debates, when it's debates, because there are lots of debates are going to go on in this fourth sitting, that is his responsibility as well, that applying the rules consistently, regardless of political alignment. Do you understand what I just said? Hence, that role is critical. No compromise, without fair, without favor is the speaker's role. And the speaker is not a passive observer. No, not at all. That role in itself is the referee, the moderator, and even the protector of parliamentary standards. So at the end of the day, when standing orders are broken that have been pointed out through interpretations, improper language, let's say disorderly conduct, or in this case, procedural shortcuts, as it may be perceived, the speaker must respond, which again, I repeat, he did, but he must do it firmly and impartial. He must be impartial. And their authority really depends on consistency, neutrality being displayed, professionalism, and visible control of the chamber. Okay? And if the speaker appears, to be a bit dismissive, sometimes they see the antics, because many times we've had persons who've been in that role have been politicians themselves, like the current speaker, and they know, they know, but still, the speaker, they can't appear flippant. No. Because they have a job to do. And if for some reason they do appear flippant or dismissive or overly casual, it is what it's doing. It sends a wrong message. And what it also is showing is that the rules are optional and that disorder is acceptable and that the institution itself, the parliament, can be taken lightly. And what that then could yield is that it's really undermining the House, because then everything is put at risk, because weakening respect for the chair, encouraging further breaches as well. So it's really a delicate role to be in. That's just some. And Parliament is a place of national decision making, and the tone set by the speaker directly impacts how seriously members take the process, and really how seriously the public, you guys, takes the institution. So his rules for upholding order is to really prevent or even respond to breaches. The speaker can make sure that he's consistent to call a member to order, direct a member at times to withdraw a remark. He may actually demand that a member require an apology of some sort. And he may refuse to recognize a member who is out of order. He may even suspend a debate if it's really getting bad. And in serious cases, the speaker can order a member to leave the chamber. Now, these are some of the tools that he has in his tool chest that exist to protect the dignity of our parliament and to ensure that the business can proceed fairly and effectively. And you should actually be very proud that at least this is in black and white, and that you have members who call out certain things, because these are things that who would have remembered that that was a motion that was passed in regards to decriminalizing someone or persons who are speeding in a wake zone? Who would have remembered that as members of society if it wasn't called out? Who would have even realized as common members of society that right now they would have been deemed in breach thereof because there wasn't, I'm not aware of there being a statement being made to say these are outdated motions that were passed and here's an update as to why they haven't been brought back. Maybe this is something that persons may actually need to look at, because stick a pin. I did hear the said member from Georgetown Central when someone was giving a response and said, I don't have the information for that, but I'll provide a response in writing. You then, the public, is left out of that when that actually happens. Okay? You are left out of it. And because those sittings, saved by us now dissecting these sittings and of Parliament, you wouldn't be aware unless there's a news article or something like that, or at some point the government or the ministry puts out through freedom of information. But you get what I'm saying? It's good to come but there are just times you're not expecting some of the questions that are being asked. And sometimes your team is not there in order for you to give a wholesome response. And that would be because everything is being recorded, and you want to make sure that whatever you put on record can stand the test of time. Because bearing in mind, other questions, be it from media, be it from members of society, be it from the very opposition or otherwise, can be asked of you. So it's very important that whenever you actually answer these questions or make statements, that you can back it up, because there could be follow-up questions as well. So I just wanted to make sure that I point that out to you as to what happened on the floor of Parliament, of course, with highlighting that to you. But the line is open, 345-936-8255, if you want to weigh in on this, because this is very important milestone for us. And you will have noticed as well on the floor of Parliament today, the annual reports were actually tabled as well. Some ministers actually chose the time to expound or give an explanation on the reports that they were filing. And some members says, no, it's all contained there for public record, so you all can go and research it yourself. That begs the question, how do you feel about it? How do members of society really feels when you're delivering these reports, even though a lot of them is in hindsight? Because I think a number of reports we were hearing was from 2024. Remember, this government was elected in 2025. And maybe you may say, well, why are they reporting on something when this was not the sitting administration? I explained that to you all here before. Many a times, these annual reports are not ready in an administrative time that you may have been elected. And because of the backlog, a lot of them, for whatever reasons, you are then tabling reports that are, in many cases, were before you, or if you're fortunate enough to have been returned, you may have been there during that time. It is your option whether or not you choose to report in detail key highlights and findings of your reports to the public, because that's where you, the public, can get it in bite-size processing. But each member has their own style. And it gives the member the opportunity as well to shout out the members of the ministry for all of the hard work, because a lot of these reports highlight outcomes of ministries and departments, how they're functioning. Some of them are actually shows you, the public, exactly how your monies has been spent and so forth. So, and there are also recommendations as well. So right now, once they're tabled on the floor of Parliament, these reports, these annual reports, even though some of them were from 2024, you have the right to find that and go and read it for yourself. And that's how it is. But yeah, I would love to get your feedback on it. But these reports show you the performance of, let's say, statutory authorities and government entities alike. And it will tell us exactly how your money that they're budgeted is being spent, whether agencies are even meeting their targets or not, and if there are challenges being faced within those ministries and those departments, and how effectively services are being delivered to the public. So some actually feel that it is they're being shortcut when the ministers don't give an explanation or some sort of synopsis of these reports that are being tabled, even though they're in hindsight. It's not like they're for 2025, but at least this gives you an opportunity to report to the voting public, to the public a whole, whether or not you vote in general, what is going on. So for listeners, this is the opportunity, if they actually choose to do it, for you to really pay attention. And it shows us how the work is lagging in this case, and how we can improve moving forward. Yeah. So there you have it. Let me see. Jim says, I checked. So, okay, sorry. I'm just trying to catch up. Damian Henry saying April 1st. Yeah, that is the date now that is proposed for these new fees and for the immigration law to take in effect. April 1st, we don't know. We have to wait now until the minister for WORC and immigration now takes the floor, and we'll see what the outcome of that. Congress needs to get more aggressive. Okay. Oh, okay. I got some of you people just have nothing to do. And yeah, I want to make sure that I don't miss anything here. So please pardon me if I see just flooding up my inbox here. I just do that. We just want to keep it, clean here. So there you go. But yeah, the phone lines are open. Please give us a call if you want to weigh in on this. 345-93. Oh, and just like that, man. The regular. Take a guess. Good evening, caller. Welcome to Sabrina Speaks.
Good evening, Sabrina, and good evening to the listeners. Very interesting day today, although it hasn't started really. The sparks haven't started flying in Parliament, except one or two sparks between the Minister of Finance and the member for Georgetown Central. But yeah, it looks like I was just looking at the list. I didn't realize actually there are so many bills. I mean, I know immigration and the other administrative appeals tribunal is coming up, but when I looked at the list on your screen, there are many bills, but I imagine some of them might be brief. But it's very interesting to discuss the issues you were discussing, like the issue about follow-up. Like the one outstanding Order 48, which says, well, if a motion is passed and it relates to national policy, then there is a procedure that has to be followed. It has to go to be notified to the cabinet by the clerk, and then it has to go to the cabinet, and then there must be a feedback from there. Now, that provision is good, but as in any provision, there are some issues that may be of interest. It is very interesting that it limits that procedure to motions that have to do with national interest, quote unquote national interest. And I found that very, very curious. Now, I am not saying that you can't write a regulation that is limited, or a standing order which is limited to national interest. But once you put in a vague thing like that, there's always a debate sometimes as to whether something is of national interest. For example, let us imagine the clerk gives that notification to the cabinet secretary. But the premier and government think that, well, it's not of national interest, therefore they don't need to follow through with that procedure. Now, who is going to determine that? I imagine it will go back to the speaker. I'm not. Nothing is ever perfect, but I do see how that could be a bit of a problem, and that is what leads me to my next issue. What might work better is to just have a system of follow-up of anything that is done in Parliament, whether or not it's of national interest. For example, you get up in Parliament and you ask a question, and the minister says, well, yes, let us imagine, like today they asked questions about Cayman Airways and leave days and so on and so forth. Let us imagine that once the answer is given, or rather within the answer, the minister gives certain assurances. Let us imagine that there are some things to be corrected, and then he will say, well, yes, we will look into that. I think that's an anomaly. We'll get back to you. Now, if he says that, what is the procedure? It might not be in a motion, so it might not even relate to national policy as such. It is just a policy that relates to a particular institution of government. Then what is the follow-up mechanism? And that's where the parliament in Cayman needs to continue evolving, because in the larger parliaments, they've got a committee. In England, it used to be called, and in other parts of the Commonwealth, it used to be called the Committee on Government Assurances. You would have encountered it in some of your travels. And what that committee does, it is a standing committee of Parliament, and all it does is list all the assurances, the promises that government has made that is going to do, and then it, as a matter of course, it follows up with the government ministries, with ministers and so on, and then it meets from time to time. It can summon ministers to come to the committee, and at the end of the year, as with all other committees, then they would do a report.
Right.
For example, they'll say in the report, in the last year, 27% of the promises made were not kept, or or whatever it is. It's just an annual report saying how has the government done in relation to delivering on the promises that they made in the House. It seems to me that if you had something that is like wider like that, then it would deal with not just issues of national policy. It will even deal with the specific promises that that ministers make. Now, I in the new standing orders, I haven't read them carefully. And as a parliamentary counsel, when I used to work for government, we know something about standing orders in parliamentary procedure. But I can tell you that there are people in the government or in members of parliament who understand those details in the standing orders better. Because for us as parliamentary counsel, we write a piece of legislation, we take it to the House, we see it through the readings, support the minister, the attorney general, and all that. And if any procedural issues arise in relation to the legislation, we can deal with them. And then after that, once our bill is passed, we are back to the office. So that as much as we know something about how Parliament works, like we don't get into the intricacies of the standing orders. But this is one which, on the government side, I've had to deal with, because sometimes, like, an attorney general is made a promise, and then you have to sort of like write either an answer for them, or write an explanation, or draft a letter for them to consider. So that's something that could be looked at.
Okay.
But then, even as I say that, I always think about a small jurisdiction. How many committees can you handle? Okay, you've got
it's a lot. It's a lot.
You've got 19 members of parliament. If you go to larger countries, that is the size of one parliamentary committee,
Yeah.
So, but these are things which sometimes you might want to consider, and maybe instead of having one committee dedicated to government assurances, you might make it a little bit broader, just like ministries in Cayman.
Okay, you see,
one minister tends.
Are you seeing what I have on the screen for private members motion?
Yes, I'm
11,
seeing
12,
that,
and 13. These are asking for Banking and Economic Standing Committee, Education and Human Service Standing Committee, and also want to establish an Infrastructure and Housing Standing Committee.
You see, And how many people have you got to go around? I mean, that's why I also found when I was in government, it arose in some way. Found out actually that the cabinet, I don't know about now, the cabinet didn't have committees because again, the cabinet is so small, you know, unless you are going to have 6 or 7 committees of one, you know. So, but it's good that they are looking into these. Is there something there about delegated legislation? Motion to establish infrastructure,
Hold on.
education.
Oh, sorry, I just changed it on you. That's the government motion. What was that you were asking?
I was asking if there might be a committee to review delegated legislation.
Oh no, not in this.
No,
No.
not in this one.
Not
Yeah,
in
but
not
let me
in this
just
one.
mention that. Not in this one. Let me mention that also exists in some countries, and what it does is, you know, Parliament passes an act of Parliament, and then it says the minister has the power to make regulations for the better carrying out of the purposes of this act. So they go out and make regulations. And most of those regulations usually don't have to come to Parliament for approval. Most of them are made by in Cayman, they are made by cabinet, generally speaking, but in other countries, they are made even by individual ministers. But anyway, when they are made, they are not, generally speaking, and I'll come to that a little later, generally speaking, they are not subject to the control of anybody. Minister makes it or cabinet makes it and it goes out there. But then what they do is that once they are made, they should always be sent to the committee of Parliament, which is in charge of delegated legislation. And what it does is that it looks at the legality of them as well to see, well, were they made within the scope of the act, or did they exceed the power of the minister to make them? Although usually that's not a big problem because they do receive the advice of Legislative Council and the Attorney General before even they are made. But as a matter of course, they check that. But what in fact they check more is like, what are the trends in delegated legislation? Is delegated legislation respecting human rights? Is it promoting good governance? Is it the regulations leading, for example, to unnecessary expenditure? Are they fair? Like, they examine them on a much broader basis, and then when they find that, if they find some things are good, they'll say they were happy with this. But if they find that sometimes, for example, there are some regulations are inconveniencing the public and so forth, again, they put them in their annual report.
Right.
The report is tabled. Very often it might be debated, and then government sees how it can respond to that. And while we are on that, I should say, I should go back to the resolution. You remember the resolution by Bernie Bush, which he said he brought a motion, a motion to say status should only be given by marriage.
Yeah, and they must block all status here or something like that.
Yeah, that it should be on.
It's by marriage or descent, I think.
Either by descent or by marriage.
Yeah.
And that was the motion, that it should be given only by descent or by marriage.
And not
what
on,
happened,
not on grounds of residence.
Not on the ground of residency. And in the debate, it was explained that, well, we are not saying that people can't be given permanent residency, but they can be given permanent residency, but maybe for 20, 25, even 30 years. But they should not be given status, because that really changes fundamentally their rights. What happened to that resolution? It was passed, and passed unanimously. Was it ever implemented? No. The new government came in, and we haven't even heard it.
But this is what I think the point of procedural order now that Representative from Georgetown Central was saying. And I posed the question to ask how many of you remembered that this even was a private member's motion that was passed on the floor of Parliament.
Yeah. Can you imagine? It was like, it was passed. I suppose everybody, nobody wanted to say, well, you can't pass it. Everybody agreed. But in the end, what was that agreement worth? Despite the fact that practically more than half of the people who passed that resolution are in Parliament again now, and a lot of them are in government. And yet they have ignored the very resolution they themselves passed.
But would you say ignore? I could be a devil's advocate. would you say ignore, or they have different priorities? It means that there's a breakdown in the operational, the systemic functions. You understand what I'm saying? I think there's an operational wheel, because you're moving on to the next topic. And remember, like what you rightfully say, if it was passed under the former administration and now there's a new administration, even though a lot were returned, who's going to remember that when you've had to just finish do a strategic policy statement? And this is by no means making any excuse. It tells me that you need a better system to flag these things. Look, this was passed on the floor of Parliament. You need to report back. What is the ground? Once the clerk of Parliament has done their job and fed it up to the Cabinet Office, then at least Parliament, which is now a statutory body, they're not a part core government. That's an independent almost entity, right? Separating it from core government. Once Parliament has done their job, the onus then is on the Cabinet of the day to say, look, this is our decision, but at least in accordance with Standing Order 48, Standing Order whatever, we have a duty to report back on this. I think the breakdown possibly is a combination of two things: the systems and, yes, members of Parliament. But that's only if they're going to remember, or the chief or those ministries. You understand? I think it's both.
Yeah, I think it is both. I think certain things are easier to remember than others. I would be surprised why they would forget about this one, because this one was the most important single issue in this election since the election of 2004.
Some may thought it was too far one direction, and you understand you needed some balance to say, no, we're not going to grant anymore unless it's through marriage. Yet we have seen where already statistics has it that the highest number of status grants given is through the grounds of marriage. So are you really solving it?
Exactly. You see, it's interesting you should say that, because they did recognize that since the largest number is through marriage, but rather than say we will only give through marriage and not through residency, they have now said, okay, we'll still give through marriage, but now we're going to extend the years from 15 to 20 years.
Eligibility, and you also have to provide an annual declaration of your personal circumstances for X amount of time. So they have extended that annual declaration for also status and a status grant if and when this law commences, and it is expected now for April 1st.
Yeah, like you have to give a kind of state of your union, not the political union, but your union of your marriage, and how it is and all that.
But for full clarity, Mr. Balika, remember, that would be only marriages that take place after April 1st.
Well, exactly.
Because anyone who marries now, they wouldn't be subjected to this annual declaration or waiting for 20 years to apply for status. You are still dealt with under the old law with what explanation has been given already. Now, bearing in mind, that's subject to change within the fourth sitting of this Parliament, because we still don't know what's going to be said.
Yeah, so the moral of the story is that if you don't want these strict new laws to apply to you, get married within March. So don't get married in
get
April.
married now. Put in your application now. Once you're eligible.
Yeah.
It is sad. People may think that we're laughing, that it's a joke. It's not a joke. But what are you gonna do?
But it is. I mean, it is. Sometimes you use a joke to try and highlight a serious point, and I think that's what we're trying to do here. Yeah, because that's what it means. And look at what happened last year with the status, the PR. They said that actually in the last month there was a heightened level of appeals, of applications for PR. So people do respond to these deadlines. But going back to the issue of marriage, to me it would have been more effective if they had said, we will give you for the purposes, or if you get married, we'll give you status at a certain point, but you will never get status by way of residency. To me, that would have been more of a real solution, because that would probably have cut down the status grants by almost half, and maybe that way, this erosion of turf away from Caymanians might have been arrested. Because I don't think Caymanians are saying, hey, we want people to leave. They are just saying, you know what, once you give
This free
somebody
for all needs
status,
to stop. This free for all of our
yeah,
status needs to stop, is what they're
once you
saying.
get started, exactly, once you get status, then you are entitled to everything locally and so forth. You know, it's not a sufficient balance between the interests of the local people
Yeah.
and your interests. Because in fact, even the European Union and their directive and so forth, they don't say that you should give everybody citizenship. They don't say that. They just say give them permanence. In other words, give them certain rights so that they can plan their life in the long term. They cannot feel, oh, if something goes wrong here, or maybe you might just get rid of them without due process and so on. But you see, at the end of the day, I just feel that the whole immigration matter, even the opposition are afraid to be too strong about it, because you remember that the opposition said that they wanted certain changes to the immigration bill, but still they voted for it. Okay, so I just feel,
you look at the demographics of some of these constituencies. So let me highlight this to you.
Yeah.
Some of the makeup of these constituencies, the stronghold are those who have acquired Caymanian citizenship and the ability to vote in our country, who were once here a work permit holder. You understand what I'm saying? That then were here long enough, were eligible to apply for permanent residence, got naturalized, and went through the same system of then applying for Caymanian status. So when certain utterances are being made, even by some of the elected arm, you could be making some statements that are actually cutting in the belly of those who even make up your constituency that was once a work permit holder.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, based on your tone, based on your pitch, based on your exchange, if they don't feel a part, which they have gone through the whole thing, how do you think that's going to be reflective on you when you knock on that door and says, I need your support, give me your vote?
Yeah. You see, this is the thing, because when you, once you get status, yes, you get status. You get status, but at the end of the day, even after you get status, there is a way in which you don't feel Caymanian, to be frank.
Exactly.
Okay,
And it's
I'm
been
sorry
said,
about it.
but do care how long you have been in our society. And you have to be careful, because with the sheer size of our population, and you extrapolate those who are Caymanian by status, the percentage on record, I stand to be corrected, is within the 20%. Some are saying 17%. For you to bring up that percentage to even 35%, that includes your status holders. Those are the people that were once on work permits. You get where I'm coming from with this? So for them to not feel like they're a part, even though they didn't get the cabinet grant, the status giveaway, the gold rush, however you want to label that exodus of Caymanian citizenship that were given away. Okay, fine. We're trying to correct that wrong. These people are still in our society. They make up that number. But what will not be forgotten or lost on them is your narrative as a leader that they are nobodies at the end of the day, technically. And it's very delicate. You got to be careful with what you say.
Yeah, it is a very delicate balance. But I think the way to approach it is to say, look, once you become a status holder, you are now a Caymanian. Your future now is tied to the other indigenous Caymanian. And any discrimination that they go through, the chances are that you also will go through it. Those are the chances. So
and that's
the idea
reality
is to say,
with
look,
the licensing fees.
Yeah, that's a reality. So that if you tell people, look, you are now here, it doesn't suit you either if we keep granting status at a rate where in the end you have more competition and your kids will have more, so there are people who will tell you, and this is said very often in Cayman, that you see some people before they get PR and status, they say, oh, come on, Caymanians are just, complaining, they're lazy and so forth. They can't get a job because they don't look hard enough. But once they get PR and status, then they start finding the employers don't want to employ them. Okay? It was not a problem to get a job before you had PR or status. But once you get one of those two, the employers start avoiding you. And then a lot of them, that's when they say, oh, yeah, Caymanians were quite right when they were saying that, you see, if you are a Caymanian, it's hard to get a job. Now I'm a Caymanian, they don't want, to give me a job.
Yeah.
So it is one of those things. You see, part of it also, it underlies the problem that this issue was not dealt with early. Because as long as the status holders continue also having political power, we don't have yet status holders who have been elected to parliament, but I bet you probably not in the next election, but maybe in the election after that, the children of those people who got status, for example, in 2003, 2004, because under the constitution, those are entitled to stand. If you are a first generation status holder, you can't stand. That's what the constitution says. But your children can stand.
I'm gonna ask you to rein it in so that I can take another call.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right. So that's the issue. So otherwise, the last point I wish to make is purely with regulations. Very, very quickly. Regulations, I think we need to use more in Cayman, certain special regulations which are subject to the affirmative resolution of the Legislative Assembly, so that once Cabinet makes them, they don't come into effect straight away. They go subject to the affirmative resolution of the Legislative Assembly. That will allow for a little bit better accountability of Cabinet to Parliament.
Okay.
Otherwise, thanks very much, Sabrina.
You,
very good topic
Always
today.
A pleasure. Thank you for filling the gap, because you do back on the call. Take care, sir. There we go. Let me get that other caller back here. It's always good. The phone lines. I love hearing from you guys. Let's go. Let's see what we got. Andrew, agree 100% with you, Sabrina. Stringent filtering. The islands need good, genuine people who will contribute to better community in islands. It's a privilege, not a priority for us to make anyone a Caymanian. Hey, Miss Rose, no problem. I hear you. You can keep your weather over there in the UK. Yes. I know. I wouldn't want to swap. It's okay. Thank you for joining us. Good evening. You're live on Sabrina Speaks. What's on your mind? I'm calling you back.
Good evening, Miss Sabrina.
Hi, how are you, my darling? I'm fine.
I'm okay. Had a quiet day.
Oh.
Today's one of those days where the brain doesn't want to work properly, but it works somehow.
Okay.
It's one of those days where I avoid people. Let's put it that way.
We all go through those, my love. But what's on your mind today? Have you been following the Parliament?
I watched a little of it this afternoon, but I'm going to go back and watch it. Okay. But I want to bring up something that happened Sunday, because this ties into who we are as Caymanians. A friend took me out for my birthday on Sunday.
Happy belated birthday, my sweet.
Thank you. It was a nice lunch. It was a nice view. It was a restaurant in Georgetown. I ain't going to call the name because I really do not want to go off on the restaurant. But we had our server was a young lady, and she was an expat. Very nice young lady. And we got talking, me and my other friend, and we listened intently. And I looked at her and I said, it's the same way we feel. The scenario is, she came here as a work permit holder, okay? She's married, a Caymanian guy, gentleman, and she married him. They had children, okay? And ever since all of that has happened, where she no longer needs a work permit, okay? She is treated just like one of us. Like she is a threat
to the expats now in this
Yeah,
organization.
and
Okay.
she is a foreigner. And I said, what? She said, yes, sir.
So from the second she got married to a Caymanian, got her Caymanian's papers, and no longer being controlled by a work permit, the whole environment around her changed.
Her, yeah. And I said to her, I said, you keep strong. I said, your service is excellent. You'll have no problems with it. But I said to her, I'm going to tell you, I used to come to this establishment when I used to work. It could work. I said, on a regular basis. And I was treated good because there were a couple of Caymanians there. There's a bunch of Caymanians of us used to go out together when we went. And I said, we were treated good. But I said, I started to notice the staff complement change. And it became more foreigners and they became more attitude. And I'm sorry, I am a Caymanian, Miss Sabrina, and I speak my mind. I speak it as I say it. And I said to the young lady, now you know how we feel as Caymanians in our own country. And I said, but I would never treat you that way. I said, it is sad. I said, hearing this from you is very sad because I said, I know it's happening because I've seen it. I've heard about it before, but I've never had it point straight in my face. And I said to her, testimony.
You've never had a testimony.
No, I said to her, I said, you know what makes this even worse, what I'm going to tell you? It's those same attitudes of those same foreign workers now that are here, that you came as a foreigner or as an expat, however we call them. You come from someone else's country. And just because you fall in love and marry a native Caymanian, you are treated like you're dirt. And I said, you know, people have sat down and wondered why we say we are treated like dirt in this country. And I said, here is a prime example. You haven't done nobody nothing. All you've done is to marry a Caymanian. And now you are a threat to them. I said, that's sad. And there were certain things that happened that afternoon. And I observed. One came in late. And they wanted her to leave. The waitress asked her, do you want to leave? And she said, no, I'm going to finish with my table and then I will go. I find that attitude, and I'm going to call the nationality, and I don't care if I hate it. I keep saying I speak the truth and I speak it how I see it in this country. The ones treating her were Canadian. And I find that attitude is a lot around in Cayman because there's a restaurant right down here, Cryconk. I wouldn't dare go there. Used to go there years ago when Miss Susie owned it, but I don't go there now because the attitudes have changed. I don't think Cryconk down the road has one Caymanian in there anymore. And this is what we find. It was another conversation some weeks ago in A.L. Thompson with a couple that had been here for 30 odd years. And the lady cleanly said to me, she says, when I go out to a restaurant that is supposed to be a local restaurant or any restaurant, I don't want Filipinos serving me Caymanian food because they don't know what they're doing. And I'm like, we have so many of, plain and simple, Cayman needs work permit holders, but we got too many people here. And if you come into this country as a permit holder and you marry a Caymanian, it seems to be the narrative now that the foreigners don't consider you a foreigner no longer. You're one of us because you married a Caymanian.
Even before
And
you
to
get
get
status, because you're
yeah,
you're free of immigration control, no work permit
you
needed.
don't have to have that headache every year. You might have other headaches of you got to show this financial this or that and that. That's good and fine, but the main headache is gone for you. And it's sad that people coming here to better their lives, whether they marry a Caymanian man or woman or not, they should not be subjected to this type. I call it discrimination because that's what it is. Because you're discriminating against the foreigner that came here and married the Caymanian. So what happens to their children in school? This is how I look at it. You know, it is very sad to hear. And like I said, I've heard this before. I've never been full face and front with it. And it's sad because then it makes me look and say, well, if they're treating someone like that, imagine what they think about Caymanians. But everybody wants to come live here. You know, it's so sad. And she said to me, she told me where she was from. I said, I know the dialect very well. Because it says in my previous years as a travel agent, I had a very kind-hearted client of mine, and she was from your country. And I can tell you she was just as gentle and kind and loving and respectful as you are. So I don't understand how you get treated this way, but it's because you married the Caymanian. And I said to her, I said, let me tell you something, and let me tell you how I see it. I said, anyone that comes to this country to make their life better, I agree with it. But when you want to come and tag on because they're going to marry a Caymanian and settle here and have children, when you come and tag on to that and you treat them like they are nothing, just like we are treated daily here, because it happens daily where Caymanians are treated like dogs, sometimes you got to open your mouth and you got to speak and you got to say what you got to say. And the whole matter of the fact is, this is what I got to say this evening. It has been said in the House of Parliament some weeks ago in the last sitting. It was either Chris Saunders, or Mr. Kenneth Bryan said it. One of the two, as far as I remember. That if we do not watch and get this immigration bill right this time, give it 10 years. Give it 10 years, Ms. Sabrina. And in 10 years' time, it was said in the House of Parliament, I'm going to repeat it. It was said by one of them MPs that in 10 years' time, there will be no generational Caymanian sitting in the House of Parliament.
I think it was the minister, MP Bryan. I think it was MP Bryan.
Yeah, they will all be paper Caymanian. And we are going to be in a horrible mess then. So my advice is to this government, look at what you're doing, look at it good. Do not make this immigration bill go forward with things in it that is going to hurt Caymanians, because there are some things that could do a little bit more tweaking in it, I think. Because if we get to a point where in 10 years' time, there's no generational Caymanians in the house, they're all paper people, we are in a mess. Because you can't come back from that one. Because, not everyone wants to go into politics. And the ones in there, they might get fed up of it too. This country is at a crossroad. And it's one that we have to look at very carefully because it affects every one of us. And every little thing that is done, it's going to affect everyone. No matter your status, no matter your financial means, whatever. But my thing is, how many more persons are you going to bring to this country, to these 3 islands? How many more permits are we going to continually to keep giving out? That we get to the point where, for me to see a Caymanian, I rarely see one on a bus anymore. I got to go to the supermarket.
Or a funeral.
Yeah. And they're all dying off. So there'll be none of us left soon. Grand Cayman has become a place where you got to go searching out for your Caymanians now.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as you open your mouth about something, you are told you are a troublemaker. But if we as Caymanians don't speak out as what we see happening and what we see needing fixed in this little place, we're going to be in a mess, because we're already in a mess, and we'll be in a bigger mess that we can't get out of. So I just hope that they'll take their time with this immigration bill, but who knows?
But the ones that are actually on the floor of Parliament now is not the substantive one, is an amendment now that actually automatically makes, and this is about 4, I stand
all
to be
of those
corrected,
people that were,
automatic-
and the amount of
automatic-
people that's going to entail from overseas. Imagine if all those people come here and move.
Well, they would have the right to.
Yeah, but where's the infrastructure, number one? Where's the proper public transport system?
But you were actually
If you get
saying
another
work
3,000
permit-
persons moving here.
You actually said for the amount of work permits that are being dished out. Remember,
Yeah.
if this bill in the latest amendment that automatically makes these 4 groups of people become Caymanian, work permit not gonna be your issue, because these people are not even going to fall under that.
They're just going to be able to say, oh,
They
I
could
got
just be
my
able to
passport
walk
after
in,
so long,
yeah.
and do as they feel. And it's not only them. What about when they bring their 4 children?
And they're going to be entitled
And
to
we want
incorporate a
them to?
business, or take it out of business, and they're going to be able
And
to
what if
vote.
they don't want?
They're
And
gonna
what if these so-called Caymanians now don't want to hire Caymanians?
Well,
Okay,
well,
there
if
you go.
what you pointed out with the lady who's working in the service industry,
It is
restaurant
sad.
industry, that they're blackballed because of her marriage. We don't know if that particular case is just a person married to Caymanian have not gotten status yet. But now you got, and I think I read the article that there's approximately 2,600 and odd persons were born or that would actually fall under this. So rounded off to 3,000 people, right? That would be deemed automatic Caymanian. This poor lady is not knowing her case, but if she don't have status yet, you understand what I'm saying? She could lose her job to even those who come with status.
Yeah.
That's automatic.
Yeah, because they hold prevalence over her, and it's a can of worms. I liken this to what the good country in North America has gone and done. You have started, I told someone the other day, the President of the United States, I liken it to a great white attacking a whale carcass.
Oh, wow.
You have
Repeat that
spoken
again. Who may have actually missed that one? Repeat it.
What the United States President has done, I liken it to a great white taking a chunk out of a whale carcass. Is that you have taken a chunk out, but the whale, the great white can chew and keep going by. But what the President of the United States has done is opened a wound that is not going to close here. Because you have involved the whole world into this.
Yep.
And you have started World War III in, of all places, the Middle East. And you are backing Israel. And what do you think is going to happen? You know, I said to someone, a family member, last night when I was on the phone, I said, nobody is coming to America right now because of the madness. But better yet, I said, I can tell you one thing. I would not want to be an American holding an American passport anywhere around this world right now. Because you are a target. The President of the United States don't have to worry about nothing, you know, Miss Sabrina. He's protected to the max, and the only how he'll probably get killed is if one of his own Secret Service takes him out. It's sad, but it's a reality. You are backing Israel, and you have caused a conflict to include the wider world population. And hear this. Remember when President Biden pulled the troops out of Iraq so quickly and they said blah, 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 this and that, blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. Look at what Donald Trump has gone and done. They invaded, might as well call invaded, because they destroyed the Iran's biggest warship, the Dina or whatever. You have caused madness in a region that is already ripe with war. So what about all of these sleeper terrorist cells now? If America was attacked once before, they could be attacked again. And you have somebody going on like he owns the world and America has no limit to the arms that they can have. But hear this. You have taken a bite out of something that you can't chew, nor can you swallow. And you have gone and made it a national problem for your people because everyone's a target.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're shocked at how Iran is hitting their bases in the Middle East. Well, when they tell you they got drones and they got missiles, they mean they got missiles, okay? And they got drones, okay? I mean, come on. You don't think they were arming themselves? But you go in as a bully and you try to bully the rest of the world into a war that nobody wants. And the UK has plainly said and seen, you know what he said, it was yesterday or whatever, to the Spanish Prime Minister? He told them that they're going to cut trade off with Spain. And the Spanish Prime Minister came back at him and said, basically, we're not coming to fight a war that we don't want to fight. This is not Iraq. He said, 20 years ago, we were fooled, but we're not fooled this time around. George Bush went in and there wasn't anything. But the point about this is you started a war in a region that already has turmoil. And you did not make any plan of action. Listen good. The President of the United States made no plan of any action to get his people out. They are stuck. They are stuck. So forget what Biden's little mishap was. This is a bigger one. You did not make a plan. You got your citizens stuck in a region where they got to shelter down. Who you think is going to become target? Everybody that's around them, because they're Americans. I don't know. Sometimes I say to myself,
crossed my mind because I saw articles and postings on social media that the United Kingdom is making arrangements.
They refuse.
No,
they made arrangements to take their
British
people
nationals out. But then you have the outcry of Americans now who are crying, what is there for us? And, the fear is real. The fear is real.
Nothing.
God
there
forbid.
Is nothing.
Yeah. By
there
air.
Is nothing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. It's sad to see and it's sad to hear that innocent lives are being lost because somebody just did not plan something. You think you can just go in and start bombing? Well, you might have watched this leader for months. You got him, but, they're already. You went after, I don't know how many of the 88-member council was in that building or the complex that they were choosing, the next leader, but apparently they killed some of those. But top on the list is this ex-supreme leader of Iran's son. He's the leading candidate. And he really has no big fly into the organization, but because of who his father was, he just become the top candidate.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell people, when you go to the middle, when people go into the Middle East and start a war, you got to know what you're doing. Because Iraq was a disaster, and this one's already is. summer is coming up, and I would not want to be any American traveling overseas. I would not travel.
In especially certain areas. And like you
Yes.
rightfully say, it is alleged that there are sleeper cells all over the world.
Yes,
We don't
and
know.
I'm sure
Yeah.
they're in America.
Yeah. And they could be in the
And
Caribbean. It was alleged that
yeah,
they're in the
so
Caribbean.
so I look at this and I say maybe it's a win-win for Caribbean tourism this year
Mm-hmm.
because Americans will choose to come down here instead.
Yeah.
All good and fine, but stopping that there and getting back to where we were, it is sad to be. Let's say this. It is sad to see where Cayman is at this point in time, because we as Caymanians have been marginalized for years. And when you hear about others coming here to try to make a life, and just because you marry one of us, man or a woman,
Mm-hmm.
you are treated the same way. Let me tell you, it's a sad, sad situation to be in. And I wouldn't wish it on nobody, but attitudes have to change here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry, we need to stop being so welcoming to everyone, Miss Sabrina,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what got us in this mess. This is a 50-year mess. Okay? It's a 50-year mess, 5 decades of it. And if Caymanians don't start to open their mouths and say, I don't want this in this immigration bill, or you need to go back and relook at this or do that, because everything I keep saying in this country has a trickle-down effect. It's going to affect all of us.
Mm-hmm.
It's sad. It is sad to see that because you marry a native, you are classed just like one of those and disrespected. And it comes down to respect.
That's
You're no
right.
longer respected as who you were. You are disrespected because of who you have now become.
Mm-hmm.
And those two narratives have to change in this little free island in order for us Caymanians to get ahead. Because we're not going to get ahead if we keep being made to feel that we're nobody in our own country. And, I feel sorry for those that constantly get beat up on all the time. It's a sad thing to think that you have to live in a place where when you go out, if you see a local, a Caymanian,
Mm-hmm.
I grab them if it's somebody, I grab them by the arm and I say, Child, where you been?
Mm-hmm.
Because, we are outnumbered. We really are outnumbered. And, like the lawyer, I cannot pronounce his name, but the good lawyer that calls your show
Mr.
says,
Balika. Mm-hmm.
Mr. Balika, okay. We're just a minority now, and we're even a bigger minority now if this immigration bill goes forward with the way it is.
Not going to feel the
Because
true impacts for what, 9 years? Mm-hmm.
Changes have to be made.
Yep.
Because you want grandfather all these people in.
Yep.
So what about the 400 or 500 children coming out of school this year?
Mm-hmm.
What jobs they gonna find?
Yeah.
What jobs will they find? Caymanians have to open their mouths. They have to speak up. They have to let their MPs that they have elected, if they voted this last election,
Mm-hmm.
because you are the voice. They're there to do your work. They're there to make your place where you live, the Cayman Islands, a better place for you to live and work and prosper. And with this immigration bill, I said it on your show the other day, and you laughed when I said, I am happy I did not vote this time because I wanted to see real change.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry. The change that I see coming, I'm happy I didn't vote, because Caymanians are going to be left behind even further with this immigration bill. And it needs to be relooked at and reworked, because some things in it have to change.
It's
Because
not implemented yet, and there are some amendments that you're saying now.
Well-
You're saying it needs happening, but they're amendments
Yeah.
not to change certain things. It's actually to open up some more, is what feedback I'm getting. The changes
Yeah.
that are coming is not to close the doors, because certain things were highlighted that they were wide open, but it appears to have done the opposite, open it even more.
Yeah. Open it even more, and you need to close those loopholes before you allow the bill to go forward in any shape or any form. Because if at the end of the day, in 10 years' time, say a young Caymanian couple gets married and they got 2 children, and they're 8 years old, say they have twins and they got married 10 years, and 10 years down the line, we've come to the 10 years or the 9 years. What then? Those children got to find work when they come out of school. And if you got all these people coming from wherever they're coming to come here to live, because they now have the right to say, I can come to Cayman, and I got where I can land and say, this is how I was born here at this time, and I need this.
Yeah.
And it's not a need. You're automatically given it.
Yeah.
We are giving away Caymanian status. And who we giving it to, we don't know. Because we don't know who's
we
going.
know, but it's the greatest numbers right now through marriage. But I'm going to ask you to wrap it up for me because we got less than 2 minutes. But it's good to hear it from you.
I pray that the MPs in there will listen to what's being said, because a lot probably are, and they're hearing the feedback from the public, just like they're hearing from this talk show, that people are concerned, and we are wondering what is going to come out of all of your mouth next. That is what I sit here every day and wonder. What are you going to come out of the government, out of your mouth the next? And one last thing, the Minister of Health should not be the one who determines final say if you should become medically indigent now. That should not be held with one person. I'm sorry. But I'll continue
in
that
consultation with the CMO.
Yes, but that's giving the minister too much power. And when you give one person too much power, we know what happens. Thank you. We'll continue tomorrow, Ms. Sabrina.
Sure,
you have a
be
wonderful evening.
Likewise.
And I just pray that they get it, they get it right. Yeah. Because as Mr. Baliki said, it is now or never, because it will never be revisited by.
Yes.
Have a good evening.
Likewise,
and thank you as always for what you do, bringing the issues to the public.
My pleasure.
God bless.
God bless.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. We want to thank our caller for weighing in. It's always good to hear from him. And just like it is from all of you, I'm posting a lot of the statements up here. Time will not permit. And I just got an email for those of you who are running a business or intended to be business owners. And I personally got it because I'm a small business. And I got this email, which I'll share with you guys. It says that the Cayman Islands government continues to invest in local businesses through small business incentive programs, delivering significant reductions in trade and business license for eligible micro and small businesses. Renewed on January 1st, 2026, with no expiry date, the Trade and Business Licensing Micro and Small Business Incentive Regulations 2025 provide certainty, stability, and long-term support to Caymanian-owned businesses across all 3 islands. Whether you're launching a new venture or growing an existing enterprise, the small business is designed to reduce financial barriers and help your businesses thrive. Micro business are eligible for up for 100% reduction in licensing fees island-wide. Small businesses can receive 50 to 75% reduction depending on their location. Apply, and it tells you apply when submitting your trade and business application to access these incentives, but the $75 filing fee still applies. It goes on to say that all businesses must obtain a license before commencing operation in accordance with the Trade and Business Licensing Act. And it goes into breaking down the definition of a micro business. And that is those micro business are employing up to 4 employees, not including the employer or the owner. And it must, those micro business has to an annual income, a gross revenue not exceeding $250,000 for their fiscal financial year. And it then goes on to say small business incentives. Also for the small business, it employs up to 12 employees, excluding the owner, has an annual gross revenue not exceeding $750,000. So all of these, what this is saying pretty much, and I can repeat this tomorrow for you in a nutshell, is that this whole thing in helping create self-employed entrepreneurs, the law has been renewed that the benefits, you can still get trade and business where there's zero based on your definition, but you need to indicate that when your application applies. We'll go into that a little bit more tomorrow. I can break it down. We take our time and we can dissect that and what that means for our economy, what promises that means for someone who wants to engage in business. And also I'll take the opportunity as well, should there be some of these bills that you were not aware of, just to try to do a high synopsis of it. But I want to thank you all for joining me this evening. I want to thank you all for your participation. I want to thank you all for your feedback as well. You're greatly appreciated. And thank you for joining me every evening, Monday to Friday from 5 until 7. So we continue to elevate, inform, and educate each other here in this space. It has been my pleasure. Please be safe on our roads. And until tomorrow, God bless. Love you lots. Good night.
That's a wrap for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks. Thank you for tuning in and for being part of the conversation. Remember, the dialogue doesn't stop here. Stay engaged, stay informed, and most importantly, stay empowered. We'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m., same time, same place, right here on CMR TV and radio, where your voice matters and your truth is heard. Until then, Cayman, take care of yourself and each other.
That's it for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks, where your voice matters, your story counts, and your truth is always welcome. Join us weekdays from 5 until 6:30 p.m. right here on CMR TV as we dive into the topics that matter most to you. Catch the show live or on demand at cmrtv.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram so you never miss a moment. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and always speak your truth.